I've been meaning to show you guys this workflow that I've been using for the past month or so. I think personally, it's the best way to use Ghost and one of the best features that people aren't talking about enough. So with agentic coding, there's a lot of fears that people have, which is how can I spin up as many agents as I can, but then also not mess up my database, my file system, etc. This is a completely solved problem because the way that I've been using Ghost is that I create a new database fork every time that I am working on a new feature, just the same way that we all use a new Git branch or a new work tree when working on a new feature. And once you start doing this, you cannot go back to the old way of working because it just makes so much sense. With this new method, you can spin up as many agents as you want, spin up as many forks corresponding to each agent, and you don't mess up your original fork. And to facilitate this workflow, I also am releasing this plugin called Power-Ups. Thank you, Jesse, for the inspiration through Superpowers. This plugin packages up all these workflows as skills that work directly with Ghost, one of which is this feature fork skill. And let me just quickly show you how to set up this Power-Ups plugin and what the whole workflow looks like when creating a new fork on each new feature. This is just a to-do app that I've quickly vibe coded. Whenever we develop a new feature, oftentimes we are touching the database, which can be scary because we might be making things like schema changes, adding new tables, altering existing columns, changing data types. And oftentimes it is in these situations that we run into database issues and it can blow up your app just like that. We have this to-do app and has all the features that you want for a very basic to-do app. But let's say I want to add more features to it. And this is a feature that is going to touch a lot of the pieces of the database. The old way of working is we just directly run the migration on the database, but this is a new way to work, right? Earlier in the intro, I talked about how I bundled up a bunch of really useful skills into one plugin called Power-Ups. One such skill is this feature fork skill where every time a new branch gets created, Ghost makes a new fork as well so that we can work in this isolated, safe place that does not affect the original database. And to install and set up this Power-Up, super simple. We use the plugin marketplace for Claude Code, paste this in. Next thing you do is you install the Power-Up itself. Now let's start working. Hey Claude, for my SaaS to-do app, can you please help me add a project and label system where to-dos can be organized into projects and tagged with multiple labels? Please use the Power-Up for database branching for me, please. What this does is it's gonna know to call the database branching skill, and it is going to first make a fork of the database. It's gonna take about 60 seconds. It's gonna do all the work in this fork as opposed to the main database. So while my agent is running wild, and you can see that I have bypass permissions, which is dangerously skip permissions, it's gonna be able to go wild on this fork of the database, but it's going to keep my original database completely isolated and untouched. It's going to apply this migration onto the schema. Again, this is working on the forked database, and it's also going to update the app to use the fork and then add the project label features. With this skill, it's also going to know what to change in the configuration in order for the server to point at the database fork. Looks like the feature was done. Changes were done to the front end as well as the database. So let's give it a try. Let's add tagging to my to-do list app. And this is going to be a new feature. It's going to be a design. Let's add task. And looks like it works. And how about let's add a bug? I noticed that tags are not being highlighted once clicked. And this is a bug. Looks like it works. Now that everything is working, I can now safely merge the changes that I did back to the main branch. So I'm going to tell Claude to do that. Hey Claude, thank you. That worked perfectly. Can you please merge these changes back to production? Since all this knowledge is built into the skill, you don't even need to know how the workflow works. Claude itself will automatically know when to merge changes and delete the fork. And that is what it's doing right now. It just applied the migration. Once it's tested that the migration is successful, it is then going to delete the fork. And just like that, this is working exactly like how a Git branch works. It's just magical. And honestly, this workflow, I don't say this lightly, it has been a major game changer for me because this is how agents work, right? You got to give it a isolated, safe space for it to do everything. And then once the human verifies that it works, or your tests verify it works, then we merge it back to production. I cannot work any other way. I would go back to using other Postgres services, and it just feels archaic because it feels like I'm working without Git branches. This is how much of a game changer this is. So hope you like this demo. Tomorrow, I'm going to share with you a workflow, but for integration testing and how Ghost Forks facilitates this. Cheers.